Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Today we are reviewing the Flex XFE 7-1280 Mini Dual Action Polisher. Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. So the Flex XFE 7-1280. So the 12 refers to the offset and the 80 refers to the pad size that it supports. Let's go through all the basics of this little kind of mini compact free spinning dual action polisher. So first up, it costs, there's always variation in price, but it costs around £300 from the link that I'm providing, and there's a code there as well that will get you a 10% discount, which is pretty significant. So that's about 30 quid off, and you get free delivery on that. So that is a really good price overall, guys. The machine weighs 2.1 kilos. Okay, so it's a bit lighter than most, full-size rotaries, and lighter than its big brother, like the larger XFE 7-15 150 free spinning machine. It has a 4-meter cable, power of 700 watt power input, and I think it's got a 400 watt output. I'm not sure on that. OPM and RPM range. Well, Flex do it all a bit funny, and that's caught me out before. But basically, to keep it simple, I believe it's 1800 through to 5500 RPM. Throw 12 millimeters, so the offset of where the plate is mounted in the axle is 12 millimeters, which gives you that kind of orbit as well as the spin that's generated. It comes with the 75mm backing plate, which supports a maximum pad size of around about 80mm, give or take the odd mil, Important to say, the machine is set up, so because the plate is offset, you have to balance that with a counterweight system. So that's set up for this plate, and it doesn't support any other plate sizes as far as I'm aware. So you use it as it comes with the pads that fit, or a pad that fits. As with all Flex tools, guys, it comes with, I believe, a microprocessor inside which controls and monitors certain things. So it's got some awareness, a bit like the old, the old Cyberdyne systems in Terminator. It's self-aware. Its main bit of self-awareness is monitoring its speed, so the tacho in it. So obviously the rotational speed of the free spinning plate is going to vary a little bit with pressure and stuff like that, but it's the speed of that axle. So if you are doing anything silly with it to slow it down, I mean, it's very unlikely with this tool. It's less important really, because you're not going to be pressuring it that much. But the main thing is it keeps that speed constant if it needs to. So it's a nice thing to have generally, especially with kind of rotaries and the forced rotation. Less so with this. Has a soft start when you put the trigger on, so it doesn't just dump the power in, which can perhaps maybe make it more prone to slinging polish around when you're at that sort of stage where you're laying the product out. It also has a power overload and temperature monitoring, so if it gets too hot, it shuts down. If you lose power during, if you had some sort of power outage and you've got to leave the building and you down tools literally without turning it off, when the power comes back on, the machine won't. So that's a nice feature. Right, that is all the nuts and bolts stuff about it, guys. Now I want to go through and talk about the important things around this tool. Okay, guys, so I want to cover the ergonomics of this tool. You'll notice all these kind of mains powered mini tools have this flip latch. So in other words, it's off or it's on, and you lock it on. They don't have triggers and buttons. And I remember thinking someone's missing a trick here, but apparently it's to do with legislation. So you'll see pretty much all of them, as far as I know, are the same. So if you know more about that, stick it in the comments, because that's something I'm interested in. But might be some EU directive about the buttons. They've got to be like this. Otherwise, there's not much more to talk about with the ergonomics, other than that the speed dial control is at the back of the machine. So when you've got this down on the panel, if you want to, and you've got the speed locked on, you can just adjust the speed while you're working the machine. But it's kind of nice and out of the way, and you're not going to accidentally kind of move it. It's kind of recessed in there. So The other thing on the Ergonomics, rubber grip on the top, so you can get your hand on it. You can kind of hold it with one hand. It's less likely to slip out your hand than if it was smooth plastic, so that's good. And it's also for vibration as well. And it has a slight lip around there if you want to kind of grip it a little bit more. On horizontal panels, you're more likely to kind of just be resting this hand and guiding. Vertical, you might sort of grab it there a little bit more, or if you're coming down A-pillars or rear quarter panels. Other than that, the only thing to mention, it's got the cooling vent, so it kind of pulls in the air, flows that over the motor and blows it out the other end to help keep the machine cool. Cool, okay, on to the next thing. Right, I want to get into the meat and veg of why you should have one of these little mini dual action polishers, what they're kind of essentially used for. Now, free spinning DAs, all of these tools, whether it's a rotary or forced rotation, most of the work is done by rotating this plate around, okay, because that moves the abrasives the greatest distance. If it wasn't rotating, it was just oscillating, you'd literally just be scrubbing the abrasives over very small, short distances. Add to that second form of movement, that rotation, and the distance that you're working those abrasives is a lot larger, okay, when it's spinning quite quickly. Now, with the free spinning dual action polishers, pressure will affect that rotation. So they work great when they're level and they're flat, but as soon as they start hitting curved areas, particularly concave, they can handle, particularly concave, they can handle going over curves that way, but if you're trying to polish into sort of like little recessed areas that are concaved and all the pressure goes on the outside edge, that's when you can stall them out. So that's where your technique in using them comes into play. And if you're trying to polish an area like this, don't crack it down in the middle like that. You'd work up kind of one edge first with light pressure and then the other one, you know, and if you try and polish through that curve, it will stall out at certain points. The stall creates inconsistency because it stops the rotation and you stop really working the abrasives properly. So that's the thing you want to avoid. These machines work best on flat panels. Now the large kind of long throw DAs, if you like, or any DA that's using larger plate and pads are much more prone to stalling out. You demo them on a nice flat bonnet and it can look really, really nice and controlled and easy to use, and it is really nice and easy and controlled to use. You try and show how to polish a front bumper, for example, with a large pad on a kind of long throw machine, and if you could see the stall going on as you're kind of working around areas and stuff, those large machines are just not good at polishing sections of panels that are kind of quite small and curvy. You know, that's the two combos it hates. So a smaller pad will sit level on curves better than a larger pad, so they're less prone to stall, which means, you know, they're more suitable for kind of certain areas of the cars and the sort of specific areas of the cars you would use this tool on. You could polish out an entire wing with this, unless it's a ginormous wing and it's got that big section down the bottom where it might be efficient to go over it with a larger one. It'd be ideal to polish out a wing almost with a kind of this size pad, stuff like that. You would use this to polish out a front bumper over a larger DA because there are not really any massive sections on the front bumper. You would use this on the rear tailgate section, perhaps even the rear quarter sections and the pillars. You would also use this for going up to the edges a little bit more, and you will use this perhaps when you've got some channels and curves like I've got on this test hood. There's a lovely curve that runs down the edge of the bonnet, and trying to get in there with a large pad is a problem because it will stall out very easily. So that's kind of what it's for, guys. Smaller sections and stuff like that. Very, very important actually. You know, all these tools have got their pros and cons, and everyone has a slightly different view on it. And there really is. I know it sounds a cliche. There is no right or wrong. And beyond ergonomics, guys, the normal things we look at are noise and vibration. Noise on this is pretty good actually, and vibration is a little bit less than the kind of 15mm throw tool that I can remember, especially at top whack. When you get through to top whack, you're going to start feeling it a little bit more above speed 5. You know, through from speed 5 to top speed 6, that's when the vibration obviously is at its highest and the noise at its highest. But it's not that bad. In fact, it's good. I will just turn it on so you can hear it. So that's speed 5. That's top speed. It's nice. So it's pretty good on that front. You're going to get, like I say, less vibration and noise than its bigger counterparts. As always with this tooling, guys, the old ear defenders, you should be using them, especially if you're doing it all day. If you're working with them all day and you don't have the ear defenders on, you get the old ringing ears in the evening. That's a pain, so get those on. In terms of its ability to cut paint, it's pretty much as I'd expect, guys. It's a very capable machine when you've got the right compounds and pads on it. So with this flex coarse cutting pad here and a suitable heavy cut abrasive, just polishing out dry sanded P2000, it just destroyed it in one set, which was fantastic. Really, really good actually. Impressive amount of cut. It's very easy to demo any of these tools on a nice flat panel and sort of, you know, give you the glamour shot. But they do work. If you get them spinning, you know, and you're using the right products, you can cut at a pretty decent rate with them. You really can. The trick, I suppose, or the thing to be able to deliver is when you're working on an entire car and there's other areas that are harder to hit that might still need a bit of correction. That is the kind of key, but that's less down to the tool, more down to you. The tool has a good amount of cut capability there, and a lot of that is generated through the fact that it's got a, you know, a larger than standard orbit, so you're getting a little bit more scrub going over there. So you've got all the capability to cut, you've got all the capability there to polish. When you're using softer polishing pads and finer abrasives, there is virtually no tendency to stall there. We'll talk a little bit more about stalling later on when I go through all the sort of feedback things on there. Next thing is overheating. The machine warms up when you're using it, as they all do. There's a lot of energy running through them. The good thing is the metal kind of axle component that runs through there is shrouded by, you know, plastic with airflow. It doesn't ever get beyond what I would describe as kind of mildly warm, and that's from working the machine quite hard. So looks like it's set up to run, you know, to be able to be used for extended period of times without overheating, which is, you know, a basic requirement when they're developing these tools, but a very important one. Okay guys, so finally I want to do the warts and all thoughts on this tools, good things as well as bad things, which is important to say. The negatives, the one that struck me the most is around price, which is something we have to delve into. This tool, let's forget about discounts, and I know there's a bit of variation in price. But this tool, let's say it's £300. Its big brother, the XFE 7-15, is £330. The XFE 7-15 seems to me, okay, a lot more sophisticated with its plate system, its cooling system, its counterbalance system, which has got some clever ball bearing thing in there that automatically adjusts when you change the plate size, I think. So it's very clever, and the weight of the pads. So it's a very clever counterbalance system in that. Very clever interface between the plate and the shroud as well on that particular machine, and very clever cooling on the 7-15. And all, you know, it's a bigger tool with all the ergonomics, and it's only 30 quid extra. I would expect this tool really to be closer to sort of £250. That's where I'd like it. I know it doesn't matter too much what I want, but I'd like to pay around about £250 for this tool rather than £300. The pricing is always relevant to the competition, and in this instance, Flex usually are a little bit cheaper than their kind of one of their rivals, the Rupes machines, which are also kind of high quality. You know, very good tools. You know, both these brands have got an eye on quality. But in this instance, this tool is generally a little bit more expensive than its counterpart, the LHR 75. You know, the mini Rupes. Another negative that I found with this tool is its low speed range, 1 to 2. I can't find any use for that speed range at all. Now, typically you use, you know, when you're using these to polish cars, you use the lowest speed range to just work your compound over the car, and that's it. But even at speed 1, it's too slow. It stalls out very easily at speed 1. There's virtually nothing there. It's going to so slow, so easy to stall it out. Really, even speed 2 isn't that much faster. So really, the usable kind of speed range is between 3 and 5. Most people will be using it there. When you're compounding, I wouldn't really suggest you go above speed 5. because at that point you can notice at top whack you can dry the abrasive out a little bit quicker, and you're starting to generate a little bit more heat, which isn't a problem in terms of buffer trails and holograms, but it's a problem in terms of the pad life, and it affects the compound. So between 4 and 5 typically is going to be the sweet spot with this machine, and like I say, 1 and 2 just doesn't seem required for me. Not a major problem, because I'll just keep it on speed 3 and I'll do my product spreading around there, maybe a little bit less, and then just crank up when I'm ready to work it. But there may be a reason for it having that very low start speed, but I can't think of one. So now let's talk about the positives, guys. Whenever you're using smaller plate sizes and pad sizes, especially on the rotary where it's forced, the tools become easier to operate. You know, with the rotaries you get the less kind of getting less pulled around and stuff, but also with these you get kind of less stall on those intricate areas. So as you can see, when I was polishing that channel on the wing, if I'm trying to do that with a huge great pad, or you know, let's not get carried away, 5.5 inch pad, it's not going to be able to get into that particular channel at the top of the wing. So I'm going to have to be attempting to polish over a lip and down into a kind of like recessed area, and it just won't do it. And that's what I'm talking about with consistency. If you're just using a single free spinning dual action polisher, I could get in there with the flex and just tilt over and it's not going to stall, and improvise it a bit more. But with the free spinning polisher on a large plate, not good at that. This sort of thing just solves that problem. As you can see, it fitted in there perfectly, and I'm just able to compound and polish out quite an intricate channel. Same goes for the edges. You can just get a little bit tighter up to the edges with these tools and polish out bits that you might miss, you know, on the kind of larger pads. So all in all, guys, these tools deliver. They are very popular, and if you get one and combo it up with a larger tool, you will use it all the time. And when you are using it, you will enjoy using it, because they are so nice to operate. That is it, guys, the XFE 7-1280. Solid little machine, very, very handy, very, very easy to operate, and helps solve or mitigate some of the problems with using long throw dual action polishers with larger plate and pad systems. So it allows much better at sort of smaller kind of areas, like I've said, and really, really nice to use. So very, very, very solid tool from Flex, this one. We will, as always, like we did with the long throw machines, we'll be looking at some of the other kind of competition out there, and maybe ultimately trying to kind of form an opinion on which one I like best. At the moment, this is the first in the kind of mini polisher series, if you like, and it's been a, you know, very good results, and a thumbs up from Flex on this one. So hope you like it, guys. Comment back on the video your thoughts on all this sort of stuff. We've got a lot of videos coming, as always, on the channel. We've got some product stuff coming through, and some other kind of practical detailing stuff, as always. I'm just trying to rack my brains there. Been talking for the last half an hour doing this and cutting it, and my throat is going, brain's shutting down. So thanks very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon on the Forensics Detailing channel. Bye for now.
Holding on to what I knew, but the moment's gone. Where was I when you